How are you doing? Welcome back to another episode. And you guys haven't seen me in a couple of weeks because I have been working like crazy. We'll get into some later episodes, but I actually have 3 or 4 different companies and they've all been pulling me in different directions. I don't mind because it's diversity, and that means I have money coming in different directions, but also at the same time, we're at this pivotal point. I'm getting pulled in directions where I have to make serious decisions. Therefore, one of them has to sacrifice, and that was YouTube. But anyway, I've had time. I have 3 or 4 great scripts that I'm writing, so the next couple of episodes you'll thoroughly enjoy. But anyway, this past week, those that don't know, and some that follow me on Instagram, which is Prestige Valet Services, what happened, we had the NBA All-Star Game here in Atlanta. And I have to tell you, we did NBA All-Star back in 2003, and frankly, I hated it. It was a crazy event, and that was our first private party that went out of control, and this was in 2003. When Patrick was here before, we spoke about how it was insane. I think let me give you a breakdown of what 2003 was about. We got hired by Anthony Iverson. I think he played for Philadelphia, one of the NBA basketball teams, and they hired us to do valet parking for this private party. The private party was for 3 days, so I think it was Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night. And it started at midnight and went till 8 in the morning. Should have included number 1. Number 2, it was utterly insane. What happened, Seagram's was a sponsor of this event, and they gave so much alcohol on a daily basis. So what they did, whatever alcohol they gave them, they just divided it into 3 parts. So at 4 o'clock in the morning on Friday, now Saturday morning, they were out of alcohol, and essentially everybody left the party. So the next day, and it was just crazy. The roads were packed. We could only hold in this parking lot 100 cars, so the other cars we had to take off the property. Every time we went off the property, valets were getting pulled over because they were jumping the median and the cops were sitting. It was just a mess. Anyway, when we found out that the NBA All-Star was coming back to Atlanta for 18 years later for 2021, we were not happy. And honestly, I didn't want to do any events. The events we did before were Anthony Iverson. I think we did a night party for Suge Knight, and I think we did a party for Puffy. And these were all back in 2003, and as you can imagine, it was exactly what you would think they would be. The anticipation for NBA All-Star coming back for 2021 was so bad that the mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, told people, do not come to Atlanta. This is something that's going to be televised on TV. Everybody should be social distancing. But of course it didn't happen. Everybody started coming to Atlanta, and it turned into a major, major party. I would get calls and people wanted to do events with us and have us do the valet parking. But to be honest, purposely, I overcharged for these events. And I did that because I don't want to be caught in a Super Bowl situation that we just dealt with just recently, which is they say 400 people are coming in and thousands show up. Well, it was about to happen again because this lady called and she said, hey, we have a party. I think it's going to be about 400 to 600 people. But it could be up to 2,000 people, but there's a lot of self-parking. That sounds like a setup to me. So we were like, absolutely not. And if we were to do it, the price was going to be so high, they didn't want to do it anyway. But if they were, it was worth our sacrifice. So they didn't choose the party. I ended up going by just to see who they did choose, and they didn't have valet parking at all. So that lets me know that that was kind of like a bullet dodged for all the valet companies in Atlanta, because I have a feeling that would have turned into a crazy, crazy situation for any parking company that would have been tied up with that one. So because we didn't do this party, and I think really it would have been about 20 valets we would have needed out there, doesn't mean there's a shortage of drama that happened over the weekend. What we're dealing with right now, it is now the second, almost third week in March, and we didn't realize, but it is spring break. Yes, we did realize, but I didn't realize I had so many college students. So right now I have about 15 people that are trying to get off because it is spring break, and unfortunately it doesn't work that way. Now, of course, I was a college student. I wanted to be one of those valets that are one of those people that when spring break came, I wanted to go wherever, go to the beach, go here, go here. But what happened, we're still in the midst of COVID. People really shouldn't be going anywhere. People are still in the midst of trying to get this vaccine, and people are still going to the beach as if nothing's going on. But putting that to the side, for us losing 15 people, that's huge. So that really affects our schedule. So we now have to have the valets that are staying work extra shifts, which I hate. And then number two, we're really burning them out. So I've had situations where this past week I got a phone call from one of my valets' mother. I cannot tell you how much I hate getting phone calls from people's parents, my valet's parents. They're adults. If you're adult enough to make this money, if you're adult enough to drive, then you're adult enough to handle your own problems. So having your mother call us or the management doesn't help out. So I get a call and it's from someone's mother, and giving this valet a benefit of doubt, he works a lot. He works 6 days a week. So if he's calling in because he has to go to the hospital, or his mom's calling in because she's taking him to the hospital, I do believe him. He does work hard and he is hungry, as we say. So I definitely believe him. Turns out that his feet were swollen. He's okay. He has to be off his feet for a couple of days. We'll manage. I'm just more concerned about my valet and exactly why he was at that point. So that was one of the phone calls that we got throughout the weekend. The second phone call I got, this one was pretty strange. This one was, hey Alex, this car was sideswiped. It's a car that we valet parked, but we didn't do this damage. Someone drove past it and sideswiped the side of it. So this valet, being concerned that he was going to be blamed for it, he walked around the entire parking lot. And you know what? He found the car, or actually van. So he was able to call the police. The police came out, and I think the person saw that the police were around his car, so he came running out. And he's like, oh yeah, I did hit that car, but I didn't do that much damage to it. I only did this much damage, not this much damage. Because I think this person actually hit 3 or 4 panels, so to fix this car is going to be several $1,000s. Now, if it's worth it or not, I'm not sure. But this person actually ran into the side of this car and then tried to sit there and say he didn't do all that damage. Some of that damage was there earlier. Obviously, the police ticketed the guy. They exchanged the information, and that guy is going to be responsible. But kudos to my valet for actually tracking down this car in a parking lot to kind of see. The easiest thing what he did, he took like a stick, and let's say you take a stick and it's here. It's like, okay, this is the height damage. He went around to all the different cars and just pretty much measured it to see what kind of scratches were at certain bumpers, and he found that car. So kudos for Austin for actually taking care of that. That was a very smart move, and we are not responsible in that case. Now, one of the final things that happened, and I have to tell you, this is a very particular, and people are going to really listen to this. We had a situation where the smart keys, being dumb, got in our way again. A customer calls us and he says, hey, I can't find my keys. I know you guys brought my car up last night, but when I got here today, I cannot find my car keys. So we tell the guy, hey, come back to the restaurant, let the valet search it. And you also search the car thoroughly as much as possible. So the guy searches it, cannot find the keys whatsoever. And the reason he was able to drive home undetected, his wife was in the passenger seat and she had the spare keys in her purse. Therefore, it never alerted on the dash where your keys or the keys are not attached to the car. So the guy drives home, then the next morning he can't find his keys, and he assumes the valets didn't give him the key. I call the valet. My valet is really strong, very good, no problems at all, been working for several years with 0 issues. I'm like, what is your protocol when you give back the keys to the car? So the valet tells me, hey, when I pull up the keys, typically 99.9% of the time they're in the cup holder or on the console at some way so that people can see it. Now, what happens, sometimes people drive fast, and those keys fall over into the floorboards, floor mats, under the seats, on the side of the seats. So we say, come back to the restaurant, let us check it thoroughly. So the guy comes back to the restaurant, they cannot find the keys anywhere. Oh, Lord, it's a Nissan Maxima. But he says he also has a Mercedes key and another key on there. And this is what's very important. Once we determine that the keys are missing and we were actually getting ready to replace the Nissan keys, probably would have cost $250, $300. He wants the Mercedes keys replaced too. And I said, absolutely not. We are only responsible for the driver's key. Now, this is very key to all the other valet companies out there, and hopefully you guys do this too. On your valet parking tickets, there's a liability that's written on the back. It has to state we are only responsible for the driver's key. Because I know we've all seen it with these people that come in and have 100 keys attached. We are not going to be responsible for all those keys if they get lost. We're only responsible for the driver's key. So give us a driver's key. That's why we have these key hooks, so we can also hang up just an individual driver's key if we need to. But do not give people 100% of your keys, because they are not going to be responsible. They're only responsible for the driver's key. So if you give us a Mercedes key and a BMW key, we're not going to be responsible for those if we're driving the Nissan. Just give us a Nissan key. That's the only key we want anyway. We don't want to have to be juggling around all these different sets of keys. And he got upset with it. So I explained to him, this is the liability, this is what it is, and the valets don't have a right to alter that by saying, yeah, I saw the other keys, we're only responsible for the driver's key. Anyway, he goes home, he calls me the next day, and he says, I found my keys. I don't know why, but they were in my coat pocket and I never recognized it. But I wanted to let you guys know that I found the keys and you guys are not responsible. So thank you for him being honest, but we were actually going to have to pay for those keys. Not have to, but we were going to pay for those keys. Now, in most situations where every time someone says we lost a set of keys or we didn't have, the old school way, you put the key in the ignition, where's it going to go? It's not going to fall out. So what's going to happen, we have this situation where these keys are lost. What are we going to do? They're usually somewhere else because they're not in ignition or the typical place where you would find them. But this is what they do. People will come and they're very quick to accuse the valet, knowing that 99.9% of the time they have them in their possession or they put them somewhere else. So again, this kind of deviated from the NBA All-Star Game to why, again, I hate smart keys. But this was just a little bit of our crazy weekend, and we have a lot more coming soon.